guys, so the February Nintendo Direct just dropped like last week, and a lot of people were asking what I thought about it. I was actually pretty thoroughly surprised about what I cared and what I didn't care about. Xenoblade, the big announcement, that's pretty cool. Kirby Automata, that currently looks cool too. I think I'll actually get that. Now, I keep getting a lot of questions about what I think about the new SD Gundam game. I think it looks alright, but I currently haven't been giving enough information about it to be fully excited about it. I was so hyped up for the HD remaster of Chrono Cross though, but then honestly what they showed in the Direct, it looks really subpar to me. So that really let me down and that didn't excite me like I was hoping it would. But there is one thing I wasn't expecting that really did excite me, and I wasn't expecting it at all. So the significant thing I need to touch on in this video, where the Chrono Cross Remaster is a complete failure, they're doing a shocking, beautiful remaster of one of my favorite games ever, a game that I finally only recently beat after digging around with it for 14 years, and that game is Live Alive. Alright, so here's some stories about why that matters to me. Square Enix has been ranking these like 2.5D games on the Switch for like the past 4 years. They started out doing a lot of SNES throwback RPGs. The first one was I Am Setsuna, which had the battle system and the gameplay system from Chrono Trigger, but none of the magic that made that game worked. It had shitty characters, it had a bad story, it didn't even have good music, so it pretty much threw out everything that made the game epic, and they were literally just like cash grabbing on nostalgia, so not cool at all. Then after that, they started doing this 2.5 HD 2D trilogy. The first game was Octopath Traveler. Octopath Traveler so far is the game I'm the most curious about, but I never actually played it. It looks like it's kind of really long. See, Octopath Traveler seems to use a gameplay system that's a cross between what Live Alive does and what Final Fantasy IV does. It combines the job system from Final Fantasy with Live Alive's unique framework of like 8 different characters, 8 different stories, and then at the end they all team up. Anyway, I beat the demo of Octopath Traveler. It was okay. It was very visually impressive, but the characters seemed really lame and the story did not suck me at all. And then after the fact, major news organizations gave it such headlines as stunning but boring. And yeah, that didn't really excite me either. Right now I'm hoping I can pick it up used one day, but surprisingly, even though it's 4 years old right now, it still runs for about $40. And my schedule's looking like a nightmare right now, so I don't really know when I'll have time to play a 100+ hour 2.5D RPG that seems to be boring in terms of story and characters. Let me know if I'm wrong about this game. Maybe it picks up, maybe it's better than it seems. But it's gotta be really semi-good if it's kept its price up for the past 4 years, right? Otherwise, I'm just impressed by the visuals and the stolen Final Fantasy gameplay elements, which seem cool enough. So after Octopath was followed up by the even more awkwardly titled Project Triangle Strategy, a game that was a lot like Octopath, and like Octopath, it was fucking beautiful the first time I saw it. And then I realized what it was, and I literally wanted nothing to do with it. Because Project Triangle Strategy, the word soup that is, it is what we used to call in the 1990s Final Fantasy Tactics. And I just need to say, fuck that shit. So for those of you who did not live for the 1990s, Final Fantasy Tactics happened. Final Fantasy Tactics was originally an RPG for the PS1, and then it got a port for the GBA. It came out right after Final Fantasy VII, and it was like a mix between the job system from Final Fantasy V and 3 and another Super Nintendo RPG called Tactics Ogre. And I need to be straight up clear with you guys, I was so disappointed in this game. See, I actually bought Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is, however, one of the only video games in my entire life that I've ever gone out of my way to buy and then just could not, for whatever reason, get around to beating it. And it's not even like I couldn't even beat it, it's like I couldn't even get into it in like the first like day of playing it. So here's the thing, the way I remember Final Fantasy Tactics in my head, I remember there was like a judge telling me the various actions and weapons and items I could use, and that the way I would use them would give me like all these different like consequences and penalties. And long story short, there was like one perfect way to conduct a fight in Final Fantasy Tactics, and anything else I would do would be like not good enough for the game, and I would be judged cruelly for it. And I want to say that the way that was phrased, Final Fantasy Tactics overwhelmed me. It gave me too many rules. It literally gave me anxiety in a way that video games don't usually give me anxiety. And I just could not get into it because no matter what I did in this game, I wasn't perfect enough. And I couldn't remember all its retarded rules. And it was just cruel, unusual, and not fun. Final Fantasy Tactics was literally the opposite of a fun game. Like, you have a game like Zelda Breath of the Wild where you just have pure freedom. Anything you do is going to be fun. And then there's also games like Professor Layton where you have literally zero freedom. But despite that, the game is still, at its core, fun. Final Fantasy Tactics is somehow the opposite of both of that because it's a nightmare where you barely have freedom, and then if you use that freedom, you're punished for using it. In Final Fantasy Tactics, your every action is being micromanaged under a microscope by this terrifying judgment, and it's not fun in any way. So then we have Square's modern day HD 2G trilogy, and yeah, so it's off to a bad run. Octopath seems more trouble than its price, and Project Triangle Strategy makes me want to kill myself by reviving the stinking heap of anxiety that is Final Fantasy Tactics. So I really did not have high hopes that the third game out of this trilogy would be any good. And then fuck. The third game is a true to the original, completely beautiful HD remix of Live Alive, one of the greatest Super Nintendo games ever made. And that stopped me dead in my tracks because it looks fucking gorgeous. It goes so much beyond the original. And did they add voice acting? Because it sounds like from the trailer they added voice acting. And I gotta be real with you guys. This remake of Live Alive, it looks so much significantly better than the original, to the point that I might even actually buy this game, even though I've played the original Live Alive on Super Nintendo like twice. Let me talk about Live Alive now. Live Alive is a game about stories. It's a game about different stories and how they're connected. My favorite game ever is Mega Man, because in Mega Man you just sit down and they're a bit like, here's some problems, go solve these problems. Live Alive, meanwhile, gives you 8 different stories about 8 equal, completely different character archetypes. You have a cowboy, a ninja, a knight, a robot, a caveman, a citizen of Communist China, a street fighter, and lastly, Yu-Gi-Oh! JoJo 1990s anime edgelord with so much hair. Now, I don't want to ruin this game for you, but you guys should totally play the new game if you haven't played the original, because I have played the original, and I'm very tempted to play the new one now because this just looks so fucking good now. I can see the sky now. That makes a big difference. Anyway, let me back up a little here now. I can't review the new game because it's not out yet. It's not out July, but I can tell you a shit ton of information about the old one. So, Aeon Justice Translations, the main translator of old Super Robot Wars games to the West, they at one point translated the original Super Nintendo Live Live. And I know they never translate a game unless it's really fucking good. So I figured I'd try it out. And you know what? It was really fucking good. One of the most solid Super Nintendo games I've ever played. One of the best standalone Super Nintendo RPGs ever. I've played Live Alive twice in my life. Once when it first came out in English in high school, and then recently, I never beat it in high school, so when the Super NES Classic came out, I hacked it on there. Felt like hot shit when I did that, and yeah, that's where I finally beat it and I finally got the ending. Now, the original Live Alive uses this kind of crazy chessboard system. Like, the different characters can use attacks that slam down these different attacks on this chessboard, and you also need to move around the board to keep yourself from getting attacked by the opponents. But then you have to also move back into their range to get close enough to the enemies to attack them back and kill them. Now, the battle system's not that great. What's great here is there's 8 different stories. And the stories have various different lengths, various different difficulties, and, you know, they have different themes and different challenges. I want to say on average, each story only takes a few hours to beat. When I finally did beat this game, I want to say I beat the whole game in like 3 days. Now, there are exceptions though, because not each story is the same length as each other. each story is like severely different. Like the Street Fighter stage was super easy because it's literally just a fighting tournament, whereas like the robot was a massive change of format and was just like this exploration mystery puzzle. I will say that my least favorite stage was the caveman stage. The caveman story just doesn't really work because like he communicates in like emojis, and then like somehow despite that he has the longest story, which is kind of nuts. And obviously my favorite story was the 1990s anime story because it's just like freaking Gal Geiger. It's suitably 1990s insane. And yeah, also the Western was pretty good too. Anyway, they all culminate in this ultimate final story where you get a crossover and all the characters that you leveled up get together and you get to use them again. And they're put to this final test where they're all together. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending because I actually forgot how it ends, but it was a really fucking good ride game there. Anyway, so I'm quickly going to review Live Alive for the Super Nintendo. And Live Alive gets a frosty 8 out of 10 because, you know, it's a Super Nintendo game, and that's a Super Nintendo 8 out of 10, so, you know, it's like almost better than SimCity. Pros, it's 8 games put together, and then it's an Avenger-style crossover between those 8 games. Each game has its own completely unique flavor. The only thing they share is a battle system. All the characters are pretty freaking cool. And each game is short enough to feel fun and easy while also giving you a great sense of accomplishment. Like if you like beating video games, this is like beating like pretty much 9 video games. Cons though, the caveman story is hard and the caveman is lame. And also cons, the battle system is very 1994. I'm going to be really curious about what exactly the update changes aside from the visuals. It doesn't look like it changes that much, but I will say the battle system is clunky, so I'm wondering if they updated it at all. But yeah, all the same, combine all that together and this fucking glamorous visuals that the remake has, plus the potential of new voice acting. The Switch remake is coming out in July, and it's on track to be a 10 out of 10 when that comes out, because if it does everything the original did, but it looks better, perfect game. Now, in the meantime, if you have a Super Nintendo, it's actually worth it to seek out the original. I'm sure there's going to be bootlegs flowing around now that this has been announced. But yeah, if you feel like seeking it out, Live Alive is a really good game. If not, bide your time and wait till the summer because the remake is going to be fucking tight. Alright, I was Buster Green, and yeah, in the 1990s, I played Live Alive. So you should play it now. Anyway, please subscribe. I'm 200 people away from getting 1,000 subscribers, and that would set me up really well. Okay, thank you guys. I'll see you later. Peace.